Hey everyone, my name is Tia and welcome to my channel. I am totally rocking the fro today. No games. So today's video, I just want to have a conversation with the saints. Those who are Christians, those who love God, those who, are believers. We need to talk. I feel like we are making God look bad out here, and God really wants people to get to know him and understand him. And because of our interpretation of what we believe who God is and how we talk to people, we just need to take a back seat and we just need to just have a conversation so that way we can get things back in order like it should be. All right? So I'll see y'all in the back. Okay, so one thing I could say about us who love God, who have relationships, we're the ones that are so judgmental. We're the ones that want to constantly tell everybody else where they're going to go, where they should go. And at the end of the day, we don't even know our own destination, our own selves. Don't the words say to judge not, that way you won't be judged? So why are we sitting here judging people? There's some things that I believe us saints, people who love God, believers, I think there's some things we need to do. So the first thing I think we need to do is we need to get off of God's throne. There's this movie in this book that I absolutely love. I love it so much because it really gives you another look of who God is. It gives you another look of God's love, and that is The Shack. I love The Shack. It's like one of my favorite books to read. And I watch the movie all the time because I'm also that visual person. I saw the movie first and then I read the book, and the book goes so much deeper. The movie is just like, it's just a sum of the book, but the book goes so much in details with the conversation, with the questions that I'm pretty sure a lot of people have for God that Mac wanted to ask, which was amazing answers that he received. And it just gave me another look on how and who God is and how he operates. And I believe that every single person who loved the Lord should go and just read the book. And if you don't want to read the book, watch the movie. So there's a part that I absolutely love in this movie when Mac was encountered by wisdom. And she literally thinks, she was like, well, because you feel like you know who God is, just because you feel like you know how God operates, how about you sit on a throne? And how about you judge people and judge how you think God judges? And I absolutely love the whole scene because it really showed that we are on the wrong, we should not be on God's throne. We need to get to a point, we need to understand who God is for ourselves first. The Bible is not used as a stones to throw at people. The Bible is used for self-development. It's used so we can be encouraged of our relationship with God when we're living our life and we thinking we're not getting places, or understanding like, okay, God, how God used people and how God worked with people and blessed people. There's so many examples in the word that shows that God can use anyone. Even those that people overlook it and think they're not good enough, God still used them. Why are we sitting there judging and using words in the Bible against people that we shouldn't be using? If people are gay, let them be gay. If people commit adultery, that's for God to judge. We don't know. We can't sit there and say, well, if you don't know Jesus, then you ain't gonna make it to heaven. We don't even know if we get into heaven. How are we going to sit there and tell somebody else's? Only person that's allowed to judge is God. First of all, let's stop and think about it, church folks. God created every single human being here on this earth. And whoever God creates, he loves. He don't love us believers more than those who don't know God. Just because I have a relationship with God majority of my life doesn't mean he loves me more than the person that's at the bar who's drinking, than the woman that's out on the street selling her body, than the homeless person on the street. God does not measure his love according to each person. His love is for everyone. It doesn't matter what decisions they make in their life. God said, my love covers all sins. And it also says in the word that there is nothing that can separate us from the love of God. We need to get off God's throne. We need to stop judging people. We need to, because you know what? The scribes and the Pharisees, they did the exact same things. Did you know it was the scribes and the Pharisees are church folks? They're the ones that read the scriptures. They're the one that read the Bible. They're the ones that people go to about problems or issues that's lawful or not lawful. That's who the scribes and Pharisees are. They're basically the church, which pretty much is us. We're the ones that crucified Jesus. We're the ones that did it. Did we kill Jesus? No, because Jesus offered up his own Holy Spirit. We couldn't even kill Jesus. We took him through they took him through all of that torture of being beat down, whipped, like the cross, the nails, and we still couldn't kill Jesus. He literally had to offer up his Holy Spirit in order for him to die. But the bottom line is, we just need to stop judging people. We need to stop measuring our sin. How can we sit there and say people are sinners? First of all, we are all sinners. We were all born into sin. We all had to get to a point that we had to know who God is. Somebody had to direct us to God in the midst of whatever we were doing, regardless if it was good or bad. Everyone sins. We sin every single day. That's why we say, Lord, give us our daily bread. Help us to forgive others, and help us to forgive those who sin against us. Like, our job is not to sit there and tell people where they're going to go and judge. Our job is to show God's love. Our job is to tell somebody when they're talking negative, say, you know what you're going through, there is more for you. This is not your final destination. God got so much for you. You are the head and not the tail. You are above and not beneath. You are more than a conqueror. Did you know that before you were formed in your mother's womb, God knew you? He ordained you. There's a destiny and purpose inside of you. There's this girl at my job, and she said that there was this woman. She said, go have a good day. And because she was helping her, put groceries in the car. And she's like, hey, have a good day. And the woman just started, getting emotional, crying and stuff like that. And the girl, in her mind, she was like, why are you bothering me? Like, I got to go back to work. But when she told me that, I was like, you know what? And she was like, I don't like that type of people because I don't know what to do. I had to let her know there's something about you that's drawing those type of people. Because evidently she said that she get people like that. I said, well, the thing is, you can't pick and choose who comes to you. People are going to come to you. And there's something about your life that's drawing that type of people to your life. So I said, so just encourage her. Like, maybe she wants to talk to you, needs somebody to talk to. Just have her talk. I understand you working your job. I understand you love your job. But maybe there's something about you that maybe you can help her. Maybe you can have some words of wisdom to help her get through her day. My job is to speak life. My job is to let people know and identify, wow, there's something that's amazing that people are drawn to you. You're probably an evangelist or a minister or something in a position where people come to you for help, for rest, for comfort. That's what we need to be doing. We don't need to be sitting there and tell somebody, holding up signs saying, no, Jesus, if not, you're going to hell. Jesus is the way. We don't need to be sitting there doing all that. We need to understand God ourselves. So we need to get off God's throne. Number 2, we need to get out of God's way of people so people can get to know God. How can God say, come to me as you are? And we got people who wants to come to church as they are, but we got this whole laundry list at the door of what people should look like or what they should be wearing or their life. If somebody want to come to church and they got a mini skirt, let them wear a mini skirt. Somebody come with their hair all dyed with different colors and piercings all over themselves, let them come. Why are we sitting there trying to shove people out of God's house because they ain't looking like we looking because we've known God all of our lives? How can we say we want people to know God, then people get in position to try to know God, but then we want to have all this list of what a godly person should be? God said, come to me as you are. And we are in God's way. We need to get out of God's way. Nobody should be excluded from coming to God's house. If some girl that's a little bit thicker than me wants to wear clothes that's tight on her, let her wear it. Because as I see it, she is hecka confident in her body and herself. And matter of fact, do you know how many people out here in the world trying to get surgery on themselves so they can be a little bit thicker? So why does it even matter? Let people wear what they want to wear. Their goal is they want to know who God is. And we're supposed to show the love of God, not judge them. I remember I was with these people and we were talking about an event. It was our first event that we did. And there was this, and we were talking, and evidently some girl I don't know if she got offended or it was really somebody else, but, someone thought it was, the girl, but it was actually the guy. And there was this comment that made, was like, yeah, and did you see what she was wearing? Some people shouldn't just be wearing things. I'm like, in my mind, I really wanted to tell this person off. Like, first of all, who are you? Like, why are you talking about this person? But you know what? I had to compose myself because the atmosphere I was in, I was not trying to bring negative energy into the room. So I chose wisely and I just did not say anything. But the bottom line, what I really want to say is, it's people like you the reason why people don't want to come to church. It's people like you of why they run away from God or don't feel comfortable being around church folks, because you're sitting there judging about what that person is wearing. First of all, it was flipping Halloween. Everybody was dressing crazy. So why are you judging based off of what somebody was wearing? We are representing God wrong. We are making God look bad. People know God by how we treat them. So if we're mean, if we're rude, if we're strict, they're thinking that's who God is. God is strict. God is mean. God is rude. God will not like me for me. God has favorites because we've known God for majority of our lives. God loves us more, and he doesn't love the person who wants to get to know him less. God does not play favorites. He doesn't love us those who love the Lord more because we had a longer relationship. God blesses us so we can be a blessing. So we could tell everybody of how good God is, and that if he could do it for us, he could do it for them. God can use anybody. In the word, didn't Saul became Paul? Saul was the guy who was slaying Christians. Anyone who believed God, he was killing them. He killed a lot of Christians. But you know what? God snatched his heart, blinded him, ended up finding a prophet. Prophet spoke to him, his eyes became open, and God ordained him from being Saul to Paul, and he was a minister. God can use anybody, but Saul was slaying Christians, y'all. But God still used him. Why? We are representing God wrong. We are supposed to show that God is loving. That's why I love the Shack, because it really showed truly who God is. And we who love the Lord are not interpreting God right. We are not sharing the truth of who God really is. And God is a loving God. God doesn't care about what we go through. Matter of fact, God already knows we're going to go through it. He knows he ain't dumb. But regardless, he loved us so much. Same thing with the prodigal son. He went in and got his money, and that his inheritance, went and spent it, did whatever he wanted to it. And then the son is just like a lot of people. They thinking, oh, snap, I'm afraid to go back. I'm afraid to be those who love me, because they may judge me. They may not want to accept me, and they may not like me. But as soon as he went home, his father caressed him so tightly. It was like all the things that he done didn't even matter. And that is exactly how God is. But we are all up in the way, want to remind people of what they're doing. We are not acting like the Father. We're not acting like how God is when someone wants to get to know him. If God can wipe away slates of whatever somebody else is doing in their life and still want to use them in a greater way, why are we why are we hindering and stopping people from understanding that that's who God is? God had to save us sometime. God had to rescue us sometime. Why does he have to have mercy on us godly folks, but he can't have mercy on nobody else? In my mind, I really think that, and this is just me, I feel like we are the world, us believers are the world, and those who may not walk in the way of God is the Christians. And the reason why I am saying that is because one thing that I know about those who, I guess, don't have a relationship with God, or so-called, in our minds, are sinners, one thing I can do is give them props. God said for us to be hot or cold, not lukewarm. Correct? One thing that I could definitely say is a lot of these people that are so-called sinners, they are the most determined, destined people. They are going out after what they believe they should have. They are living life. They're exercising the gifts that is down inside of some of them. Majority of them are. A lot of these stars of people, every single day, they are in the studio. They are molding and shaping their craft every single day, getting better, manifesting by speaking words of positive in their life of, hey, I'm going to be a millionaire, and having goals, setting them and getting there. When you hear a star pass away, you can go back in the history of that person and look at all the things that they've done. And according to me, I'm thinking, wow, they lived a great life. But as Christians, we sitting here in the pews judging people where they're going to go. We're sitting there in the pews judging, saying, well, it's either you're going to love God fully or don't love that God at all. We talking about that, excuse me, we talking about where people are going to go. First of all, we can't even get to church on time. Some of us, we love God, but we don't even tithe. We don't even get offering. We don't even give first fruits. And we have the audacity to talk about somebody else. At least these people out here are doing the best they possibly can with their life of getting rich. Yes, some of the words that they're using, they're actually in the Bible. The only difference is they just flip it differently because they don't want to acknowledge that it's really God. But at the end of the day, they are still living their life to the fullest. When have I ever heard of a Christian who loves God who passed away? Actually, many Christians who passed away and love God, and they lived a full life. I can go back and research everything they've done, who they invest, what they left behind for their family. How many of those people have I read about in the news that actually do that? But we sitting there judging the world. Why do we got to have boundaries between Christian? Another thing is Christian music and worldly music. What does that exactly mean? Like, just because something doesn't have Jesus or God in it doesn't mean it's not of God. If you say worldly music, does that mean jazz, classical, tango, ballroom? You know, there's a lot of genres of music that's out there. So what is specifically different between Christian music and worldly music? Kanye, I love him. He did a whole album which shows his direction of where he's going for his life to God, giving praise, honor, gratefulness. Does that mean that he's now considered a Christian artist? Or does that mean he's still a worldly artist? What exactly does that mean now? What position is that? I remember seeing Andy Mineo's album, Neverland, and we got Christians judging the symbols. Oh my gosh, what does those symbols mean? Why is those symbols in there? We want to pick and choose what's Satan and what's God. We shouldn't be focused on that stuff. We should be focusing on doing what God has us to do, which is God knows that he says, for I know the plans that I have for you. We should be walking and living the life that God destined us to live, encouraging ourselves, reading the word to lift ourselves, walking in the identity of who we are. And then we should be sharing that with other people, saying, you know what? You are more than what you're living right now. You think that's the best? Guess what? God got even so much more for you. Like, that's what we should be lifting people up, not tearing them down. Some people know what they're doing. They don't need somebody to be reminding them of what they're doing. They know what they're doing. That's why sometimes I don't even like calling myself Christian. I don't like even being acknowledged as Christian because people know us godly people so well. They judge us before we can even say anything coming out of our mouths. I remember I was asked, it was like, what's your favorite artist? I said, I don't really have a favorite artist. I love listening to music. I'm a dancer. I listen to all types of music because I love all styles of dance. I love the music. I love the culture. I love it all. And she was like, okay, well, what songs have you listened to lately? I said, I just listened to a lot of songs that keeps me in high spirits and reminds me of how good God is, because God's been really good. And then there was another person who got asked that question. It was during orientation. They said they had an artist. They said an artist. I was like, who's that? I was like, oh, and I was like, oh, I never heard of that. He's like, oh, and one of them was like, oh, well, it's not Jesus music. I'm like, just because I haven't heard that artist doesn't mean that I don't listen to that person. I just don't know I just never heard of the artist. See, and that's what I mean. People judge me as a person who loves listening to worship music, and you don't even know me. But that's how we are with other people. We already got the label before people even me who loves God can even say anything yet. And I had to try to change the image of that, because I don't want to be put as if I'm of a certain way when I really am not. I love being around people. I love people being themselves. I don't mind hanging around people who smoke. I don't mind hanging around people who drink. Jesus did all the time. Jesus was everywhere. Who knew what they were doing? But all I know is Jesus was not around church folks a lot, but Jesus was everywhere. He was able to hang around everyone. And if we're supposed to be who love God, and we can't go places because we want to be around a certain atmosphere of Jesus folks, we ain't going to impact a lot of people. We're supposed to be in the world, but not of it. There's nothing wrong with being in it. We are in the world. But God said, don't become of it. Just people know I don't smoke. They asked me, do you smoke? I said, no, I don't smoke. But if you do, enjoy that puff, puff, pass, repass. Do you drink? No, I don't drink. But if you like to drink, enjoy your sippy sip. I don't care. Like, even though my choices are different from somebody else, that doesn't mean I got to judge them. I love being around all types of people. The place I'm at, I could talk to anyone. They don't have to worry about me judging them, because I ain't got time to judge them. That's their life. They gonna make their decisions. But the moment when they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm about to be sick, I'd be like, no, you're not about to be sick. You're not. Don't speak that, because if you speak it, you know it's gonna happen. You're not sick. You are feeling better. You're feeling well. You're just getting a sign of something is bothering you, and you know what you need to do to take care of it. You'll be all right. You're gonna be okay. That's what I do. I don't sit there and say, well, it's probably because you're doing something you ain't supposed to do. Well, if you knew Jesus, then you would know that by Jesus' stripes you are healed. Like, I ain't gonna go into all of that. People don't need it. It ain't all that deep. It ain't all that necessary. God is very simple. We the one that make it very, very difficult. There's this story. There's this thing that my mom, and I love my mom, she pointed this out, and this is the last thing I'm going to end with, because at first my quotes was, get off God's throne because we need to. Number 2, we need to get out of God's way, because we're in God's way because we're supposed to be ambassadors. We're supposed to be citizens of God. So we're supposed to guide people to God, not stand in the way because we want to have all these judgmental a list of what people should be. We need to get out of the way. But anyway, there's this thing that my mom pointed out when she was reading her word, and she's just an amazing woman of God. Love her. I wouldn't want to be with any other mother. I love my mother so much, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you love your mothers too. But she pointed this out in the Bible when she was reading, and she said this is what God revealed to her, which helped her during her ministry when she was ministering. But what she said was, and let's really think about this. Go to your word, read John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, all of them. But when Jesus was at the table with the Last Supper, right? Jesus said, one of y'all is going to betray me. And all of them was like, Lord, is it I? All of them wanted to know who it was, because they had to stop and examine themselves like, wow, is it me that's going to betray Jesus? What is Jesus talking about? Is it I? So when that question got asked, first of all, it should really think, because Jesus is supposed to be our example, right? So if all of them got to a point where they were like, Lord, is it I? Jesus, the dopest person who walked the earth, Jesus knew the whole time before he chose his 12 disciples that Judas was going to betray him. He knew the whole time. He was still part of the 12, and Jesus still loved him. But Jesus knew the whole time. If we as Christians living today and we are Jesus, oh heck, we definitely would have pointed that out. First of all, we would have done two things. Number one, we probably wouldn't even let Judas be in our among the 12, our 12 home skillets. He probably wouldn't even count and be part of our clique. Number one, because we already know how Jesus is that he was going to betray. The second thing we probably would have done is if we did let him in our 12, in our squad of 12, we probably would have busted him out throughout our whole ministry. Yep. Well, people love God and seek first the kingdom, and all things should be added unto you. But I already know Judas is about to betray me. So, but it's okay. Like, it's no big deal. I still love you anyway. You didn't see anything in the Bible that Jesus corner-eyed Judas. It's like, I know you're going to betray me. I know Satan is going to enter you and you're going to betray me and leave me in the hands of the scribes and Pharisees and the soldiers. Jesus didn't do all of that. Jesus didn't. Matter of fact, Jesus still loved Judas. He didn't bust him out. He didn't reveal him. The only time that we knew that Jesus revealed who it was when he said, whoever dips the bread. That's the only time that any disciples knew that it was Judas. And then on top of that, even though Jesus said, one of y'all gonna betray me, disciples still didn't even know what was going on. They still didn't know what Jesus was talking about. They're like, oh, betray. Well, maybe because Judas was in charge of money. That's who he was. He was the man that was in charge of the money. So they thought maybe he was going to go do something. They don't know. They still didn't even catch on. But the thing is, Jesus was so covered and so amazing that Jesus did not expose. He didn't show any love less to nobody. He loved everyone the same. And if Jesus is supposed to be our example, we need to go back to our word and read what Jesus did. So when my mom pointed that out, I was like, that makes so much sense. But us Christians, or people who love God, we are so judgmental. We are so unforgiving. We don't know how to love, even though people make their decisions that they make. We don't want to always pick what's God and what's God, what's Satan, what's not Satan. That's all we care about. Satan's already been taken care of. He has no power unless we give it to him. We're giving him too much power, too much glory, and too much attention. And we really need to snatch our lives and get ourselves together. The word says, what Jesus told us to do, two things: love God and love others as you love yourself. I'd like to add a little extra in there. I believe when I read that, that's interpreted of love God, love yourself, and love others. You can't love others as yourself if you don't even love yourself first. And you can't love yourself if you don't even know why you created or who you are yourself. And the only way you're going to find that is in God. That's why God said, love God and love others as you love yourself. That's how we should be living our life. I believe in this decade that we are in now, we should be focusing on not trying to get people saved, but we really should focus on understanding God. We need to understand the mysteries of God, understand God's love, then get to know ourselves. Are we fully doing what God has for us to do first before we sit there pointing our fingers about what somebody else needs to do? Because there is a life that God wants us to live, and we are shortening our life and our years because we're busy trying to tell people where they're going to go. We need to stop. We need to show God's love. That's what we are meant to do. We are meant to be loved and love others. That's what we are meant to do. Jesus said that we are part of God's body. Or Jesus said we are part of a body. Read your word. It's in there. And every part of the body needs each other. We need each other. Each one of us, we need each other. Now, do some of us know how to talk? No, it's okay. We're learning. We're all learning. We all got issues. We all got problems. And we need to love, and we need to accept people for who they are. I don't care. Like, get off of Kirk Franklin's back. So what if he did a prayer? What's wrong with people coming together and just doing music? Why do we got to say, oh, he's a Christian artist? What does that have to do with anything? I remember talking to somebody because of, and I said, wow, I heard Tasha Cobb's song. And it had Nicki Minaj on it, and it was great. And the guy I talked to, he was like, "Well, I didn't like that. I don't know why she's on a Christian song anyway. Like go back and she dress all exposure and nudity and she talk about what she's talking about. Like, nah, I don't agree. It's either going to be one or the other. It's like, how many times every single day do we live one or the other? How are we going to sit there and judge about her? And if I'm correct, Nicki's the one that asked to be on Tasha Cobb's song. She wanted to be a part of it. And that's a powerful song. I'm getting ready to see something I've never seen. That's an amazing song. We sing it at our church. We be jamming. That's an amazing, uplifting, spiritual, aka motivating song to understand word, which is to work on believing, having faith, believing in things that I don't see right now. That's an amazing song. So it's like, we say we want people to know God, but we get mad when they get to know God. Like, we need to get ourselves together because we are really making God look bad out here. So I hope and pray that if you love God so much that now this video, it doesn't go for everyone, but just to the saints, just to the church folks, just to those who love God, but you got a rock in your hand. We need to put down, do what the scribes and Pharisees did when they was trying to throw a rock at Mary because they caught her in adultery. And Jesus said, "Him without sin cast the first stone." All of them dropped their rocks. They all disappeared one by one. We need to start doing that. And we need to really get to know God, get to know ourselves, so that way we can start to learn how to love others. People are hurt. They are going through things. And the last thing they need is someone who loves God to sit there and judge them. There are people who are doing their gifts. And the last thing they need to do is be put in the category of sinners. Who wants to sit there and be want to be labeled as a sinner? Nobody likes that. Every single day we sin. We do something that we're not supposed to do. We are not perfect. And it may not be an action, but what about your mind? Your mind counts as you sinning too. And if God can meet us where we are in our lives and enhance us, what makes you think he can't do the same thing for anybody else who may not have a relationship with God? We have to expand ourselves and be in these areas and stop trying to shelter ourselves around just people who love God and judge people on the outside. I just hope by you watching this video, I hope it encourages all of us who love God to really just get ourselves together. God is probably mad at us right now. We need to stop making God look bad. Thank you for watching. I hope I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.